6 things every Christian girl needs to know before getting married.
We'll be talking about healthy sexuality, dating, relationships.
It's a very quick Q&A, question and answer. The question is, should Christian women wear pants, or is it a sin to wear trousers?
Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda Ray and I was born and raised in a polygamous cult. And today we're going to be talking about all things culty. This may be triggering for people who grew up in religious trauma. Watching this was a little bit triggering to me because there's just a lot of misconceptions about religion. And I do want to say, I am not religious, but I am at a place in my life where I believe that religion is a thing that man has created. And if you're going to be in a religion, it should be benefiting your life in a healthy way. So if you're going to be in a religion, it should be something that's bringing you up, building your family up, building you up to be a better person. But a lot of the times I see people in religions that the religion is just a crutch for them to be a narcissist, or it allows them to make everyone around them enablers because they decide to cherry pick Bible verses and misconstrue the idea of religion. So to me, it's like, if you're going to be in a religion, how about use it for the benefit of you and others versus make you a shittier person. So my opinions on religion is kind of like neutral at this point in my life. I find that too, watching these videos and of people talking about God and how with God all things are possible, I find that there is a very similar way of doing that with people who just believe in their higher power and their higher self in the universe, or becoming the greatest version of themselves and having faith in themselves and trust in themselves. Sometimes when I hear people talking about faith and trust in God, it easily translates for other people faith and trust in themselves. So and here's the thing, like both of those, it's different ways of going to the same path of trusting yourself and self-actualization and self-development. So to me, there's no, what's the psychologist that was it, Freud, that said that it doesn't matter which way is right as long as the end goal is getting met, right? It doesn't matter if God really exists or not. It just matters if you're getting the development that you're wanting out of it, if it's actually adding value to your life. This whole video is not about like bashing religion or telling people that they shouldn't be Christians or that God does not exist or whatever. It's mostly to try to point out where sometimes religion and Christianity can actually be harming you and not doing you any good. And sometimes when we're in these especially when you're born and raised into these religious environments where everybody around you, this is just the way that it is, then critical thinking skills become less normal, because there's this, especially for the religion that I came from, there was a one way to do things, right? You're going to get married to who the leader wants you to marry, you're going to live polygamy, you're going to have as many kids as possible. So it was like self-development, trust in self, finding oneself was not something that was very common, because there was very black and white thinking, which causes a lot of following the leader blindly. Then there ends up being a lot of corruption because there's no holding the leader accountable, because anyone who tries to question the leadership becomes ostracized or of the devil. So I thought this video would be really interesting to talk about and to really dive into, because I think that when I first left the cult, it was like all religions are stupid. You know, I went and overcorrected, but I'm to the place now where I believe that it's really just human nature to, if you're not self-aware, you're going to ruin it. We as humans ruin a lot of things by not being self-aware and holding ourselves accountable and allowing others around us to be held accountable as well, and being open to empathy. I can go on and on about this subject, but I'm just going to briefly say this. The biggest thing that I found in a lot of the cults, I have a lot of friends from different cults who've had to escape, who've had to heal from the trauma of these different cults, usually polygamous cults, but the biggest thing that I found is that's very unanimous here is that there was a lot of shame to get the person to do what the leadership wanted. Guilt, shame, and fear was a very common thing in each of these religions that they ended up having to escape. So I find that there's going to be, you know, what's the word, like a spectrum of, you know, you can either go all the way this way and control and manipulate the people, and then it's a cult, it's a completely, doesn't help the followers and only helps the leader. And then you can go all the way this way, where, I guess I don't know what that looks like. Very open-minded and Maybe that's the good thing. Maybe that's what we want is over here. I don't know. So I found this we'll ease into it. I found this channel, which I actually like this girl. She seems very kind. She seems very genuine. Her name is Casey Nicole. So let's watch this one. The title triggered me, honestly. Biblical Habits of a Godly Wife, Christian Wife Talk.
Habit of a godly wife is she prays for her husband. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but prayer is the most powerful investment you can make in the life of a person you love. And for the person you love most, your husband, you have a unique responsibility and ability to pray for him in a way that nobody else can, because you know him better than anyone else does.
I find that statement, praying for your husband, is a unique responsibility. To me, it sounds, and I'm just basing it off of that wording, and she could have worded it wrong, I don't know, but it sounds like when your husband is messing up or your husband is sinning or whatever else, then that's your responsibility to pray for him. It's your responsibility to make sure that he's also in line. There is a very common theme in marriages, in religions, that you know, the man is the head of the house. There's all these roles of a wife and a husband, and I mean, it's simple right here. Biblical habits of a godly wife. There are all these things that you need to be doing as a godly wife, and praying for your husband is one of them, which I disagree with. And comment down below if you just like this is a safe space. If you disagree with me, disagreeing with her, then go for it. Give me your point of view, because I would love to be corrected. But I find that praying to God to help someone else see something, that's not your journey. That's their journey. They are the ones that need to want that path for themselves. And it kind of feels, so I had a family member who was very upset when they found out that we have a grandpa who died and was the leader of the order, okay? My cult, my religious, he was like the chosen one that we all believed, and then he died, passed away of cancer. And they found out that the Mormon church did a baptism for the dead for him, to give him an option to go to heaven. I find that very similar to this topic of praying for your husband or giving blessings to someone who doesn't want them. So the family got really offended that someone did a baptism for the dead for him to be able to receive this in heaven if he wanted to. They got offended because that's not their belief of religious beliefs. And I honestly was understanding, like, yeah, that actually would kind of offend me too if I believed that, well, I don't believe it anymore, but if I still believed and was in the group and this was the leader of our group and some other group was trying to baptize him for their group against his will, using his name, you know. So I understand if it's a husband and a wife and you have this consensual agreement where we're going to pray for each other to help each other, but I could find that could be scary, you know, like, oh, you're not doing the dishes, babe, I'm gonna pray for you because it sounds like you have Satan in your heart, you know? Or even to pray like, please, dear, I just can't picture in a world where praying for your husband to do better or be better could be a positive thing, unless you're praying for his health, you know? Please help my husband get better, you know, please help my husband to, literally that's the only reason, to help him heal. Okay, please heal my husband. And tell me if I'm wrong, but if I found out that my husband was praying for me, being like, can you please help my wife to stop being such a slut? You know? It feels like my prayers are gonna be about things that can help me grow, and I'm not gonna take on the responsibility of your growth and take that as my responsibility. And I find that not even religious couples do this, but couples in general can do this, like trying to take on the burdens and the tasks of someone else. You cannot fight their battles for them, and this feels very intrusive. Unless she's saying, you know, like when my husband asks me to help him pray for himself, you know, like if it's a mutual thing. But if you're going ahead and just it feels like a boundary that you're crossing. Like, let me help you with your battles because you can't figure it out. That's how it feels. But I watched this whole video and I actually understand the rest of the things she was saying, but this one was the piece that I was like, no, I don't think you should be praying for him. He can do that on his own, unless he's like blind, deaf, mute, you know, in a coma.
Scripture is filled with verses that talk about honestly just how horrible a nagging wife is, or a quarrelsome, fretful wife is. Proverbs 21:9 says, "It is better to live on a corner of the roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome wife." Somebody who is picking fights, who is nagging, who is just digging into every little thing to stir up a fight of some sort. And I feel like it is so easy to read those verses in singleness and just be like, I would never be that nagging, quarrelsome wife. But then if you've been married, you know that it is such an easy temptation to fall into, even in the seemingly little ways, or not doing it often, but really there's just no place for it. And Milena talks so much about praying for your husband instead of nagging him.
So yeah, I think that just kind of confirmed what I was saying. You think praying to God and gossiping about my husband to God is going to help fix the issue? Also, I feel like the issue is not, if there's an issue, going and asking God to fix it is like, why not communicate to your husband? Maybe don't nag them, be like, why don't you take out the trash, but to have better communication, then you're gonna have a better marriage. If it's a you problem, then go ahead and pray and say, dear God, please help me to, find better communication, or find better within myself, or find If it's a you problem, then go ahead, pray all you want about it, and then you can process it within yourself. But when it's something that is a both of you issue, then it should be something that you're both communicating. Aren't you both in the marriage? Are you married to God, or are you married to your husband? It just feels like it's very, and I get it, like a lot of people who believe in God that they're gonna, God's gonna come down and like fix the issue for them, but God helps those who help themselves. I do think there are some cases where it's an internal battle or an internal struggle that talking to God can help, because I do it, but it's not talking to God, it's talking to like my higher self. It's talking to the greater version of myself. And I journal it out, and it gives I feel like it gives me the same serotonin, the same confidence in myself, and the same trust in myself as a religious person talks to God. But if I'm sitting here trying to resolve issues of other people's lives, whether it's to God or to myself, I find that that's not productive unless I'm actually actively in that person's life, communicating with them, trying to make our relationship better, and actually taking the steps towards a better, and maybe I'm not understanding her 100%, but to me it sounds like, oh, don't nag your husband, just pray that God will fix the issue. But what I'm saying is, okay, yeah, don't nag your husband, but figure out better communication, because there's an obvious issue. And to not talk to them and just hope that God's going to figure it out for you might be, I guess it's better than doing nothing, but I think the best situation is to have better communication style.
Or you have the same ability with the same pair of hands to completely tear it down. Like when he comes home from work, have just lingerie on. Today, I have such a passion for this because I sat on the other side for so long, and I feel like once the Lord woke me up to this, I was like, oh my gosh, my life has changed, my marriage has changed.
I know this one's gonna make it sound like I'm talking bad, but I'm genuinely not. I'm trying to give credit where credit is due, and I find that a lot of Christian people will say, God finally showed me this, or God finally answered my prayers, or God made my brain, the light go on in my brain. And sometimes I feel like it's making you feel like you don't have the capabilities yourself. You are incapable of coming to the conclusion on your own. You had to have God put it in your brain, because it's like you're not giving yourself enough credit. So I found that a lot in the cult that I came from too, was like, oh, I had this dream and I had this premonition and but a lot of the times it's just, oh, you just put 2 and 2 together. And you're smart, but they can't. I hate where that teeter-totters on too, where it's like you're not giving yourself the credit or the validation that you deserve, because anything good, God's done, right? And then anything bad, Satan's done. So then where's your part in this? Are you just like following hopefully you're on the path of God and not the path of Satan, and any great thing that's popped in your brain is God putting it in there, and any bad thing that's popping in there is Satan. So then is there any accountability on you? Sometimes I feel like it gets kind of murky when that kind of topic gets brought up, especially when too in the order, a lot of the times people would go so far into that, like God told me that this is true, and God told me that I'm supposed to be hitting my kid, God told me that you were sneaking out last night. Like I had people literally saying that God gave them a dream that I was sneaking out with a boy that night, and so then my dad like busted the door open, like God was watching, you know, and I'm just sitting there like reading a book, like I'm like reading the Bible, really, I wasn't doing anything. But it brings this almost like schizophrenia out in people, and I really do believe people that have underlying schizophrenia and they get into these really deep cults, they will start thinking that the voice in their head is God. I mean, there are studies too, not studies, there are times where this has happened and people have done horrendous things thinking that it was God talking to them. So my whole point in this is just saying this is like a light, innocent thing where she was like, God showed me this, da-da-da-da. But if you're not careful, that can get really scary. And sometimes it can make you have no trust in yourself. It can make you actually trust yourself less because you can't be trusted with your own decisions. You're constantly having an angel and a devil on your shoulder.
And then I have 7 practical things for you to try doing this week. Now, I know 7's a lot, so you might not want to do all of them this week because that might be overwhelming, but see which one really resonates with you and stick to it, cling with it, and try it for 7 days. I like specifically did 7 with 7 and 7 because that is the beautiful number that God loves and the number of completion. So pray on it, see which one just really hit home or which one it has been hard for you, which one the enemy is trying to take victory over, and no more today, Satan. That ends now.
See? Satan's gonna get you. And that's another thing too, like if your marriage fails, it's because Satan was in it, you know? It's like sometimes people aren't compatible and you can't force it. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be, you know, I think that it's so much better to look at life as every person that was put in my life was meant for that amount of time that they were in my life, and they were meant to help me grow, and I grew from the situation, rather than, oh, I got a divorce, I should be ashamed because Satan got me good, or Satan got my husband. This way of thinking is already a little bit guilt and shamey.
Corinthians, Paul is talking to the church of Corinth. Here is telling them what the unity and the principles of marriage should be. So, now concerning the matters about which you wrote, it is not good for a man to not have sexual relations with a woman. But because of the temptation of sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman have her own husband. The husband should give his life to her rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, though the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves in prayer, but then come back together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now, it does go on a little bit more, and you should definitely read, but I feel like this was the meat and potatoes that I really wanted to get at.
The meat and potatoes.
Your body does not belong to you, and as a husband, his body doesn't belong to him, but to you. This should bleed into every aspect of your life.
So I guess this makes sense, that by the idea of, oh, your body is mine and my body is yours, then of course I get to pray for you because you are mine. And I it's so possessive, and I think that walking into a marriage with that kind of a mindset, it makes you lose your sense of individuality, and it makes you lose yourself. Because now you are him and he is you, you know? And now, who are you?
You should be more intimate, you should be more gentle, more kind. All of these traits, every year of your marriage should only deepen and get stronger. Most people get divorced after being married for a longer period of time. And of course that makes sense. Like, of course, there's more baggage, there's more stuff that happens, there's more time for resentment. But that is just not biblical.
This is also another thing, and I'm sure that a lot of her points are going to be really great, but I have never found a religion that doesn't frown upon divorce. And this is also why in countries where religion is more prominent, then the divorce rate is less. Sometimes when it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, you know? And I feel like it's such a pressure to be putting on people that they not only have to be rushing into marriage because they can't be having sex before marriage, but then they also have to make sure that they keep that marriage, because if not, you're a failure.
By the conducts of their wife, and when they see your respectful and pure conduct, do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of the hair, the putting on of the gold jewelry, or the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be in a hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. For this is how a holy woman who hoped in God used to adorn themselves by submitting to their own husbands, as Sarah obeyed Adam, calling him Lord, and that you are her child, if you do good and do not fear any.
I don't want to hear this part. Well, you get the idea though, right? So this is the girl that the other girl was referencing, saying that, you know, you shouldn't be nagging your husband, blah, blah, blah. These relationships, here's what I saw in the order, okay? Because when someone has ruffled feathers and starts to ruffle the feathers, then it's so quick for people to be like, Satan's got ya, you know? When someone's like, hey, I'm unhappy, then instead of it being like, let's evaluate the situation, like a flower, if it's not blooming, let's evaluate the environment. They don't do that. Instead, it's like, hey, I'm unhappy. Oh, well, maybe you're not praying enough, you know? Oh, well, maybe Satan's got a hold of ya, because being depressed is actually of Satan. And it's so like shamey and self-loathing in a way. And I find that, and maybe this girl is just conveying it in a way that I'm not receiving it, but I just think that by living by what she's saying, it's going to create a relationship where the wife becomes too afraid to come off as nagging, or too afraid to bring up and express her issues that are going on, because she doesn't want to go against the Bible, because then Satan's got her. You know, and like, now we gotta have an exorcism. It feels very eggshell, walking on eggshells, and being very careful with the meat and potatoes. You know, even the way that they're talking is very like, it's triggering me back to the order. Like I remember growing up being like, I don't want to say too much, but I want to say just enough. But oh, I said too much. You know, oh, I'm questioning too much. Oh, having your own sense of individuality is a sin. What if I don't want to give my body to my husband? Then what? Am I of Satan? Am I using sex to control him? Oh, I could go on and on and on. Let's go to the next person though. So I actually saw on Jordan and McKay, they did a video on these people, and I have no idea who they are, but I find them quite interesting actually. This is the only video I've watched of theirs, and they turned the comments off. But yeah, if you haven't seen Jordan and McKay's video, maybe watch it. I mean, I didn't even watch it all the way through. I just saw some of it and I thought it was interesting, so I ran over here.
Ella handed me this grace-filled book, right? And she says to me, she goes, Britt, God is a gentleman. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? What did you just say? She goes, God is a gentleman. Then she says to me, you know, I know that you haven't known a lot of people that have honored your personhood. And I know you know how awful it is to have a man's intentions forced on you, right? God, in his infinite love, she says to me, will never force his intentions on you, right?
Oh, that one got me. Okay, so this is probably my own issue, but I still get a little bit of a trigger when, and it's something I think I need to work through, but whenever someone tries to tell me who God is, and oh, I hope you didn't lose faith in God because of your cult, Amanda, or God loves you, Amanda, and God's waiting for you to open the door for him. Those kind of comments used to really upset me, and now I'm just like, okay, but because to me it's just like someone putting their beliefs on me, you know, their beliefs on the afterlife on me. That's how I take it, and it's not giving me the comfort that they're thinking it's going to give me, you know, but I understand that they're trying to comfort me, so I try to just take it for what it is for them, take it at the face value that's theirs. But when people say that they know this about God, and God is a man, God is this, God is that, you never died and you never met him. I say him, but to me, in the place where I'm at right now, if there is a God, it to me doesn't make sense that he even has a gender, because gender is something that was created on this earth, right? Because it makes sense that we have gender on earth because we procreate and have children, because that is an earthly experience. In my brain, if there's a heaven and a hell, or an afterlife, and it's not on this earth, then why would we be bringing all these earthly things with us? We're not bringing our body, we're bringing our soul. Our soul doesn't have the genitalia, right? That's getting buried under the ground. we're bringing our soul. And so to me, through everything that I've learned in religion and had it shoved down my throat my whole life, I've come to this conclusion that if there's an afterlife, one, no one knows exactly what it is like unless they died and saw it. And, you know, even then there's no for sure. So to be saying like, I know God is a man and I know to me, it doesn't matter. The gender shouldn't matter so much. And so many people hyper focus on God is a man, God is a gentleman, God is this way, God is that way. One, doesn't matter the gender, but people argue about it. Also, Jesus's race gets argued so much. Again, doesn't matter. That's another thing that I don't think would, if there's an afterlife and in this perfect creation, why would any of that stuff matter? Also, a race is something that is only earthly too, because your race is dependent on what part of the earth you were on in growing up and then who's marrying who and whatever else. So that also doesn't, so when people would argue, and this was a big argument in the order, that Jesus Christ was actually white, it's like, who cares? And this is why I say, like, we just want so badly to have a reason to be better than other people. That's why they wanted God to be white, because they wanted God to be like them. They wanted to be the best. Sometimes we're just inflicting our own narcissistic beliefs onto the situation, or we're inflicting our own what we think is comfort, and we're thinking that everybody else will also find that as comfortable. There's this like cookie cutter black and white way of thinking. Also, the whole idea of heaven and hell to me is like, your heaven is going to be so different than my heaven. Like, my heaven is not going to be your heaven might be my hell, and my idea of heaven might be your hell. Your idea of hell might be my heaven. Like, the idea that, because I remember as a kid them talking about, oh, heaven is like all the streets are made of gold, and there's homes with no one has doors on their homes because they don't have to lock their doors because there's no thieves. And I remember as a kid being like, one, why would we need gold in heaven? Because gold is a earthly way to trade and get goods. Why would we need gold in heaven? Two, why do we need houses? There's no hard weather, right? It's sometimes, this is why I love though hearing people's different perspectives of it, but to me, I'm like, the only way that you can perceive what happens when we die is based off of what you know, which is this earthly experience. And so whenever people argue with me like, oh, how do you know that no, it says in the Bible God's a man, but okay I don't like to make those arguments anymore, because people get so offended if you try to say that God could be anything but a man, because the Bible says he. But the Bible also was written by men who understood it in the form that they understood it, right? Which was also thousands of years ago, right? And maybe at the time, all they could comprehend is because gods back in that time were men, and kings back in that time were men, so they assumed that God was a man. You know, and maybe there was this manly voice talking to them, but does that mean that it was a human man? You know, like, it just means that it was, anyway, I could go on and on and on about this topic. And I'm not saying that they're right or that they're wrong. I'm just saying that these types of conversations are things that I couldn't even have with anyone that was in a religion, because it's so cookie cutter black and white. It's this way and you're wrong. And there's not a lot of open-minded people that I've been able to have these conversations with in religions, because, again, there's one way to do it, and if you don't do it that way, then Satan's got a hold of you. This is one thing that it scares me with religious people that are super religious too, is that the idea of faith, you know, faith is a big thing, and like having faith in something you cannot see, and not questioning it. And that part is scary too, because that's, again, making you not use your critical thinking. And so you just have to have faith in what? Oh, something that the leader said. Let's hope that this place that you've been brought to and this leadership is not corrupt, because you are blindly following them with faith and putting your salvation in their hands, you know? To me, whenever I questioned in the religion, in the cult that I was in, it was always smacked. Like, don't you question God? Are you questioning God? But to me, I'm like, if there's this God that has created this world and it has created all of these different lives, don't you think that God would be so proud of his children for questioning things and figuring it out on their own rather than just blindly following the rules? It's kind of like when you're a teacher and you have all these students, and one student gets straight A's because they just memorize everything in the book. They just have a really photographic memory and they write it all down as photographic, but they don't really understand it. Whereas there's another person that's a student that's asking a bunch of questions because they genuinely want to understand it and they want to know it and how it works, versus, oh, I recite it, but I don't understand why this is the process, but this is the process. You know, who's really living it to the truest extent of what it's meant for? Anyway,
I was thinking, in the same way that Ella shared with me and I shared with you, would you share what it means, this God being a gentleman?
Yes. It means that God loves you so much that he doesn't ever want you to feel forced to love him. Love is only love if freely
chosen.
Yeah.
Love is only love if freely chosen. He really wants a tender, kind...
Okay, I like the message, but I don't know why I can't stand watching this. I don't know why. The message seems good and it has good intention, but can someone else tell me if you get a little bit of like a cringy vibe or like a fakeness to this, a hypocritical vibe to it? It just doesn't seem genuine. And that's all I have to say about it. I understand that they're trying their best to get the message across, but to me it feels disingenuine. And I'm just being real. Okay, this video triggered me because let's see if y'all can guess why.
The question is, should Christian women wear pants?
My question is, why are you telling us? Why are you giving us this lesson?
Or is it a sin to wear trousers?
If it's a sin to wear trousers, I don't care about going to heaven. Okay? If that's even just one of the rules, that I can't wear trousers, there's a uniform? This is stupid. This is a stupid question.
There are different church denominations, I believe different...
This guy has 1 million subscribers. And he starts his video off as, is it a sin for women to wear trousers? Let's talk about it. Do we really need to go watch a YouTube video to find out if God's going to be mad if we wear trousers? This is another thing that really bothered me, where when you're in a religion where it's, again, you're someone who's raised to believe that there's all these commandments and there's all these, and you need to trust and have faith in the leadership, then guess what? You have to go ask him for everything. Can I wear trousers? Okay. Can I dye my hair? Okay. Can I wear makeup? Okay. Can I, in the order, in the cult I came from, there was a lot of people that were like wanted to get all of make sure that they could be the goodiest, two-shoesiest members, right? And there was the joke that went around the order that people would be like, can I go to the bathroom? Can I wipe my butt? Like, they would literally joke, the members would joke about it because it was so obvious how some of the members were just so goody two-shoes trying to get every single thing right. But again, it's like, it doesn't matter at that point if you're just trying to do everything that the leadership says, but you can't even use any of your critical thinking skills, then are you even capable of getting into heaven? Do you even deserve getting into heaven? Because you have to ask if you can wear trousers.
Right? But you should always focus on God's word, because that is the final...
Then why am I focusing on your word right now? Why are 91,000 people watching this? Can you imagine if he goes, and by the end of the video, he's like, so no, any woman wearing trousers is a whore, is following Satan himself.
Authority. What God's word says, if a church agrees with that, you know that it is correct. But if they say something that is not in line with scripture, you know, okay, wait. I'm gonna follow God and not men.
But you know what the Bible does say? Exodus 21:20, if a man beats his male or female servants with a rod so that he dies under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his property. 1 Peter. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the harsh. Deuteronomy. But if the thing is true and evidence of virginity are not found for the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done a disgraceful thing in Israel, to play the harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil. Sorry, I'm just like... So when anyone quotes like the Old Testament to try to control me in religion, I'm like, okay, I get it when it's like New Testament and Christ says turn the other cheek. Christ's teachings are like a lot more up to date, but still, we're still going by a book that was 2024 years ago, you know? 2024. So I'm sure at the time that this Deuteronomy thing made sense for the people in that day and age, but to me it's like, if we're going to go around quoting the Bible, it's a lot of jibba jabba. He who is emasculated by crushing or mutilation shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. If two men fight together and the wife of one draws near to rescue her husband from the hand of the one attacking him and puts out her hand and seizes him by the genitals, then you shall cut off her hand. Your eye shall not pity her. So what made me question the Bible in the very, very first stages of questioning it was the story of Job. Does anyone know the story of Job? God basically tested... Okay, I'm just going to give you my perspective of it, and if you guys want to correct me, go ahead. I'm all ears. But from my understanding, Job was like this loyal servant to God, okay? He was so loyal, he was so trusting and so loving to God. And I guess God and Satan were chatting it up in heaven or hell. I don't know where they were, but Satan basically was like, oh, I bet you I could get Job to turn on you. And God was like, no, he's my most faithful servant. So then Satan's like, can you give me permission to test him? And God says, yeah, for sure. Satan kills his whole entire family and gives him like a deathly illness, all to prove that Job was faithful to God. That's what you get for being faithful to God. But the story gets so great, even though his whole family died, because he was so loyal and grateful and whatever to God through the whole thing, God blessed him sevenfold, meaning he gave him like extra children and another wife. So can you imagine if you're married right now, if God killed your husband and said, just kidding, I'll give you a new one. Like, I actually miss Larry. Can you bring Larry back? I don't like Chris. I want Larry. Like, I don't know. When I heard that story, I was like, I hope that this is just like a parable, or that this didn't actually happen, because if that's God, I don't know if I want to like him that. Like, I'm scared to be a devout, faithful, loyal servant of his, because I'm going to be punished severely. He's going to kill my family. And then what were to happen if Job failed? And he's like, freak you, God. Then what? Oh, now you're going to hell. Like, okay, shit.
It only says that women need to dress respectable. 1 Timothy 2 verse 9 says, likewise, also that women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel, with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire.
When you have all these rules, or like, in order to be a godly woman, you need to be dressing this way, you need to be doing your makeup this way, then guess what happens? Judgment. People start to judge other people. Oh, she's not dressing in a godly way. Oh, she's not listening to 1 Corinthians 3. It's just a recipe for disaster, you guys.
Those things are just examples of women who try to make themselves extremely beautiful all the time, and it's like they get their self-worth on just their appearance instead of focusing on their character. Verse 10. But with
what is with this like inspirational music? Listen, when I'm dressing up and I feel good about how I look, then I feel more confident to go about the day. And I believe that everyone feels that way. If you just roll out of bed and run to the store, you don't feel as good about yourself, right? So I just think it's wrong to say like specific things that you shouldn't be doing. Like, if you feel good about how you're dressing and it feels fresh, clean, healthy for you, then does God really care? I don't think he really cares. And if he does, do you want to go to that heaven? I have been itching to watch Girl Defined, you guys. Okay, especially because some of their most blown up content has been people being very frustrated. And here's the thing, I am not gonna bash them. I totally understand them. From the small amount of content that I've watched of theirs, they came from a huge family too. I think they were talking about having 8 siblings, and they're sisters coming from this religious background. But I'm just wanting to see if we can point out the flaws in where the critical thinking is just kind of thrown out the window. And the individuality is not there. Another thing that's it's hard to find individuality when you come from a family of 8 as well, because it's just, again, like, you kind of just have to have faith in the process. When you have 8 kids and there's only 2 parents, you're not going to get the validation that you need from the parents. There's going to be a lot of things lacking that your parents never gave you that you're going to be seeking in weird ways as an adult, or you're not even going to understand. You're going to have a harder, speaking from my own experience, I had a harder time finding myself because there were things that were holes in the system that I never got as a child, and I'm still working through as an adult. For example, my mom hated physical affection. She didn't like hugging me. She didn't like kissing me, but it was forced to give a kiss goodnight. Like, come give your mom a kiss goodnight after we'd have family prayer. So when you have a dysfunctional idea of hugs and affection, it's still very uncomfortable for me for people to come up and hug me, or like, there's people in my life that are very lovey-dovey, where when we're sitting on the couch they'll like to like lay or like cuddle. I don't know how to get past that, and I'm a very, like, to me it just gives me anxiety, makes me uncomfortable, because my mom was not very affectionate with me, and when she was, it was forced, like, come give me a kiss goodbye right now, you know. So I'm still working through those parts of myself and trying to find a happy, healthy balance with physical affection. And I know people also in my family who have a hard time with validation because mom never validated anything that they did or said. So now they have a hard time and seeking validation in different areas, externally instead of internally. So we're probably gonna see where that happened here in this family. Because on top of having a huge family, you're also in a religion that's going to, again, do what I was talking about before, where, oh, you're depressed, just pray more, you know, like, it's all oh, Satan's got a hold of you, you're gonna have to pray more. There's less it's less common to have them be like, oh, let's try to figure out your mental state, like, what the environment, what's the problem with the environment that you're in. And plus, you don't have time to do that when you have 8 kids. Okay, let's go.
There are some of you who are more like us, where you're like, I don't really love it, but eating is an essential part of life. And I want to bless my family in this way. I want to serve my family in this way. And so I do it because of those reasons. I didn't realize how much time meal planning, grocery shopping, like, on a budget, you're trying to do it all on a budget, and you're trying to be somewhat creative, like, not just make the same spaghetti every single night. And I remember thinking, like, why does everyone act like this is just such a normal part of everyday life?
It's hard.
This is taking me so much time. My husband grew up in a family where his mom loved cooking and loved the creativity of cooking and flavors and complicated recipes. Like, she just enjoyed it. And to this day, she still does.
Pulls out every pot and pan.
Yeah, but that's the background my husband came from. And so now here we are getting married, and I'm like, like, he's used to delicious sauteed fish and, you know, things that are
all the sides that go with it, all the pairings.
Yes, like, every meal would have at least, you know, multiple sides.
And another background that's very different is, like, my husband had not traveled extensively at all, and yours had. Yeah. So just even the cultural experiences and exposure to different.
They were both raised with a mom who cooked, but she didn't like cooking. And then her husband's mom was a better cook. So then there's all this, like, pressure that they have to be a good cook. Why not? Hey, babe, do you like cooking? No? Okay, well, I don't like cooking either. So either one of us can get better at it or like it more, or let's just start ordering in, okay? Because I don't like it. Like, why does it have to be, like, because I'm married, now I have to sign on the dotted line that now I have to be a chef for the rest of my life? I didn't sign up for that. And I find that this is a very common theme in religious families. It's just known that the man is the head of the house, and the woman is the cook and the cleaner and the maid, and it's a very outdated way to look at it, especially nowadays when a lot of women are working, or a lot of women have way more to offer than to just be the chef of the house. Not saying that the chef isn't a big job. It is a big job, but it's also like, what if I don't want to do that? Then I'm not gonna do a good job at it. I'm not gonna be passionate about it, and we're all gonna suffer now. Now we're all suffering. It's not even about like, I'm not cooking because it's a gender role, or you should cook. It's more about like, if the person isn't fit for the job, stop forcing them to fit. Stop taking a square and trying to put it in the circle. Open your mind to a new possibility. But see, it's frowned upon. Because I guarantee if the girl that's saying that she hates cooking so much, if she were to just get like a chef, or to get like order in, then there's judgment based off of that. And so that's why it's such a big topic of conversation. The video is called Why the Kitchen is Actually an Empowering Place for the Women. They're trying to like learn to like to do the things I ought to do. Learn to like brainwash themselves into being a better wife. But cooking doesn't make you a better wife. Cooking is just a thing. It doesn't make you a better or worse wife. Same with a husband. If he's a good cook or not, doesn't make him a better wife. It really just depends on anyway. This is another example where it's a cookie cutter situation where in a religion, and you get married, and then the wife cooks the meals, and then the husband did, and not every person is going to fit the roles of what the stereotypical religious family is supposed to look like.
The pressure was on.
He, in fact, never put this pressure on me. I have to say that up front.
Yeah.
He was never like, oh, where's the 5th course? I mean, he never once, but I still felt, I just put it on myself. Like,
this is a good point, though, to make. A lot of the times it is the society and the church pressure, and then it becomes your own pressure. Especially, we talk about this a lot in my live streams, when the inner voice in yourself and the self-judgment, the self-critical, the guilt, the shamey inner voice that you were raised with, that is now the inner voice that you have as an adult, stems from childhood and the people that talked at you as a kid. So this becomes the norm, to feel like you're never going to be good enough because there's so many roles that you're trying to fit as a good Christian wife, mother, woman, whatever.
and so I did put that pressure on myself.
Yeah.
I think in unreasonable ways of like, it has to be so beautiful and so elaborate. And so the early days of cooking for me in marriage were stressful.
Yeah.
But something I wish if I could go back, I think I would have probably maybe spent a little more time in my single years giving thought to this.
Really?
Maybe. I don't know for sure, because I don't enjoy it, so I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I just think of if I had had a little more experience with just even understanding how to cook chicken well, or I think it could have been a great benefit to my husband in our meals. I don't know. But
See, this is another guilt and shame thing, especially when you're trying to say, I wish that in the past that I would have worked on this so that I could have been a better wife. It's just another shame tactic now she's doing it to herself. I wish that I would have been better at it, but I didn't like doing it, and so the beginning years of my marriage were really, really hard because I didn't know how to cook. It should be a fun thing. And I think because of all the pressures, it's not fun, I think that, to me, cooking can be fun if it's not a pressure. I'm the same way. I'm not a good cook, but if there's a recipe that I really want to try and I'm having, support and help in the situation, then we can learn and grow and figure out how to do this together. Also, what's the problem with cooking together? That sounds like a fun date night. I just hate that the responsibility is solely on this woman, and I kind of feel a little bit bad for her, but I also feel like she's not really looking at other options other than, I wish in the past I would have done this and this. That's not productive because you can't go back to the past. It's okay to not be the stereotypical, anyway. It reminds me of that TikTok where it's I'm not a feminist, I can actually cook. It's so then is Gordon Ramsay the biggest anti-feminist because he can cook? I don't understand what that means. Do you think that this is also partially why, that study that said men in marriages tend to be happier and less depressed, and women in marriages tend to be more depressed? So basically a woman adds to a man's life in a marriage, and a man takes from a woman's life in marriage. Did you guys see that study? Maybe I'll pull up some clips of it. But maybe there's all this pressure put on a woman when she gets into a marriage, and I do find that a lot of the times, especially in religious situations, the man isn't looking for a wife, they're looking for a mommy. Because all these roles that the Christian, how to be a godly woman, Christian woman, don't nag your kid, cook nice for your kid, put the meals together for your kid, make sure your kid, like all the things that you would do for a child is what the husband's seeking. The husband's seeking a mommy to take care of them. If you ask me, like if I ever were to get married again and it was going to be like that, I have to take care of my little baby, I just wouldn't get married. I don't want to have a baby. I don't want to have a grown-ass 30-something-year-old baby. Like, I just know. And there's another thing, too. And then they're expected to have children while also taking care of their 35-year-old child. This is what bothers me. Sorry, last part. How to not nag your husband. How about, husband, don't be annoying? Then I won't nag you. Well, it's like the expectations that are just on these women is why they're so stressed out. And I also think that the idea of marriage is, especially where I came from, the idea of marriage was this beautiful thing to kind of like entice the woman to get married. And then when they're in there, they're like, whoa, I didn't realize there was all these roles that was going to be placed upon me. And if I don't fulfill them, then I'm a bad wife.
Enjoy it.
And again, going back to losing your identity, right? Why do you think so many women, when they get married, they lose their identity? Because of all of these now just known roles that you're supposed to have, even though you don't feel like they're in line with your morals and values, but now you're going to be shamed and blamed if you don't fit the norm, right? This is why, though, I find it, religious or not, it is so important to know who you are and to be confident in yourself and stand strong in the person that you are before getting married. Because if you don't know who you are, then you're more susceptible to all the manipulation and all of this person thinks that of you and this person thinks that you should be doing this and I'm the head of the house and then you just feel so lost. So it's so much better to wait till your brain fully develops, find out who you are completely, stand strong in that, and then you will attract someone who will support who you are as an individual. And they're not going to be so hung up on the idea of you cooking.
But it wasn't, even to this day.
I will say, though, I do appreciate how candid they are about it, even though it does make them look a little bit naive. Kudos for them being just super, super painfully honest. It's scary when the women have all of these roles because why do you guys think it's just more natural for a woman to take care of the child and it's less natural for the man? Just think of it this way. When you see a woman walking down the street with her baby in a stroller, that's normal. She's a mom, whatever. You don't think any thoughts about it. When a man's walking with a stroller, oh, such a good father. Oh my gosh. It's something really messed up in our heads that has made us believe that a woman just should be this way, just should take care of the kids, and then guess what happens when the woman's taken all of that responsibility? The man has no bond to the child. The man's not doing anything for the child. The child's not bonded to the man. So in a way, you're kind of by taking away those responsibilities from the husband, you're taking away the emotional connection for him to the children. Like all these roles that a woman should have for the kid, it should be more equal because the kid also is affected by this. When the mother is doing all of the important stuff, then the child now has no connection to the father. Oh, it just bothers me. It just really, really bothers me. We're part of the problem by saying, yeah, I'll be the one that cooks my baby's food. I'll be the one that cleans up after my baby. I'll be the one that takes care of my baby. Okay, what the fuck is the point of the dad then? An income source? That's it? I do want to see their most popular 6 things every Christian girl needs to know before getting married.
So I've been married to my husband, Zach, now for almost 6 years, which is crazy. Like, time has flown. But now that I've been married for 6 years, which still isn't a super long time for some people, I have learned so much since those early days of marriage. And I can even remember back before I got married, the hilarious thing is that I thought I knew so much back then. Like, I remember the wedding day approaching thinking like, man, this wife thing, like, I've got it down. I've read all the books, all the Christian resources, like, I'm gonna nail it. And then I got married and discovered that it was a lot harder to actually live out a lot of the things that I had been reading in real life. And remember,
I can't even watch this. No hate to them, but I truly feel like they have lost, their identity is in their marriage. they are one of those people that on their Instagram is wifey too, and then they have the @ of their husband, you know, like, and that's fine. But when you're so far that way, your marriage becomes, your relationship and your marriage is a part of you. You are now your marriage. That is your identity. You are losing yourself completely. And that is, I've done that. I have done that. And I wasted a lot of years of my life trying to conform to the marriage and making the marriage. If the marriage wasn't working, then it was solely a self-hate shame cycle if I couldn't get the marriage to work, because this was my whole identity, was the marriage. So I don't know. I kind of feel for these women, but you know, how do they have 158,000 subscribers? Like, maybe there's a lot of Christian women who are like, 6 things every Christian girl needs to know before getting married. Okay, yes, I feel like I just need to know so much because I don't know anything. Definitely some triggering topics, huh? And it's kind of just, when I get triggered, it's usually the topic of whenever religion tries to push you to not trust yourself, to not allow you to be your own self, to shame yourself for being you know. I think that it's scary because so many times people are trying to promote God, but in a shameful way. Like, I hate the idea of I'm a God-fearing woman. I hate that wording. I hate the idea that we need to fear God in order to make it into heaven. Why would you want to spend eternity with someone you fear? You know, the shame, the fear, the guilt keeping you from doing anything bad. The shame, the fear, the guilt, making you a better person. I disagree. I disagree with anyone who thinks that shame, fear, and guilt is going to make them a better person. Shame, fear, and guilt just causes you to have habits of self-hate. And then that turns into judgments on others, and it actually makes you a less godly person if you think about it. So this is the toxic part of religion, that people start to get it twisted, where they think that if they do it, if they have the fear of God and the shame and the guilt, that it's going to help them stay on the right path. But it's honestly, the only Christians that I truly agree, the only Christians that I truly agree with are the ones that are like, because of my love for God, it has helped me to be a better person, because I find so much love in this, you know. And they're not going to be wanting to shame you into doing the right thing. They're wanting to just love you for who you are, because that's, God is love. That's the only Christians that I truly enjoy being around, because the other ones are the ones that are just silently judging you, because they're also hating themselves and judging themselves, because they don't have a good sense of self because of the shame, the guilt, and the fear. So yeah, again, and this is about the end of the video. We started with the same conclusion that we're ending with. Religion is just a thing that you can use and you should be using to make you a better person. But a lot of the times we find people in religions using it as an excuse to be a narcissist, or there's a lot of enablers who are enabling a cult leader who is a bad person. Because a lot of times religions have all these like set of rules, and then people go by the book, and if I just follow all these rules I'll get into heaven, and they lack the critical thinking skills of, wait, let's have empathy over here. And I don't really think that it matters that much if I wear trousers. Like, let's think about what actually would a loving God who wants us all to return to him care about. Like, it's not that hard, and a lot of the times I don't feel like you even need a Bible to understand like what empathy, it's just empathy, you know. And empathy not just for others but for yourself, and the self-love that you have, like whether you want to believe in a God or not, having this high form of self-love or this love in God and God loving you is going to naturally create a better relationship with yourself and with others. But when you have, again, the shame and the guilt and the forcing people to do things, or else God's going to come get you, it's such a skewed way of trying to control people and manipulate and cause ultimately people who don't know each other, don't love themselves, don't love other people, and then their kids are lacking in a lot of the developmental things that they need because they're so rigid on, these are the rules, we need to blindly follow, rather than let's just have empathy for each other. Like, it's so much more simple than it. I feel like all these rules complicate things, like how to be a good wife, 5 steps, how to be a godly woman, how to not nag your husband, how to make sure that you can, you know, learn to be happy in the kitchen. Yeah. If you're someone who finds yourself having to constantly be told what to do and constantly need guidance and reassurance constantly in your life, then maybe it's not a Satan's gotten a hold of me issue. It's more of a who the hell am I issue. Like, let's find out who I am and where my morals and values are. Because religion, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for everyone that's grown up in religion, but growing up in my religion, it was just known that, hey, this is bad and this is good, and don't question it. So when you're raised that way without the understanding, it's a flawed system. If you don't understand why it's good or bad, it's not really in line with your morals and values, is it? So you're not naturally going to be picking the good choice because it's in line with your morals and values. You're just doing it because someone told you to do it. To find yourself and to find out what you believe is good and bad, you need to find out what is in line with your core morals and values, why or why not, fully understanding yourself. That's why when we're so confused and we're needing so much guidance and reassurance, it's really that we just lack self-awareness. Some people think it's Satan's got a hold of you, but I truly think it's just you don't even have a hold of you. And when you can have that better understanding of yourself and be more self-aware, you can be more in tune to your emotions and your empathy for yourself and more in tune to others. Again, though, this is the best place to be because then you don't care what other people think. That's also why I said you shouldn't get married until you know yourself, because when you're so like, tell me what to do, I don't know what to do, you're easily swayed, easily manipulated. You're not knowing who you are, you're not focusing on that part, and you're going to have a very hard road ahead of you. Rather than recentering yourself, focusing on what you want, focusing on who you are, standing strong in that, no one can waver you. You don't care what other people think of your marriage. They're not in the marriage. Why should you care what they think? So this was so interesting, a little bit draining, honestly, because these it feels so eggshelly though, like walking on eggshells and like not to say that any of these people are hypocrites, but it's just so hard to believe that anyone is perfect and that anyone is actually following any of these rules. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. This whole point of this video was to hopefully anyone who is struggling with religious trauma or with the shame and the humiliation that their family has put on them because they didn't fit the norm that their religious upbringing was supposed to give them, whether it's that you're gay and they didn't accept you for that, or you got a divorce like I did, or you left the religion like I did, or you chose to go a different path than that they had in line for your life. That was what this video was supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be shaming or blaming anyone for, not being good or bad or how Satan's got you. It's mostly just to be like, look, we're all human and people make mistakes. Religious people being one of the people that I saw make the most mistakes. And it doesn't make them a terrible people, but when you live your whole life lacking that self-awareness and accountability, and then it kind of does make you a bad person. So just hopefully being able to stand true in your truth, and whether that is that you want to be a Christian person or that you want to just find your own path in a different direction, standing true on your values and your beliefs and being okay with having them questioned and understanding yourself to the fullest, because running away from understanding yourself is only going to hurt you in the long run. So yeah. Anyway, hopefully this didn't trigger anyone. It definitely triggered me a little bit because it reminded me a lot of people I used to grow up with, and it was so hard to have conversations with them because I don't like to walk on eggshells. I don't like to be someone that's like, yeah, sometimes cooking in the kitchens is not fun. Like, I'm the person that's like, I'm not going to cook for you. Like, I'm sorry if that makes me a bitch, but I'm not going to cook for you. Like, if you're hungry, you have two hands, do it yourself. Yeah, anyway, but I also was the one growing up that was the one ruffling the feathers and the black sheep. And I'm okay with that, though. I'm totally okay with whatever anyone's idea of me was, because I know who I am, and I don't really care what they think I am, because I'm not here living my life for all of these other people. If I was, I would still be in the cult, and I would be married to my cousin trying to have kids with him, you know? At the end of the day, you're not going to be happy living your life for anyone but you. And I know that, that quote bothered me. Her, she's like, I know the world likes to blur the roles, but the Bible says this and that. The world likes to, what does she say? People should just do what you want.
To say about our role as women, our role as wives, and if you're single and you're like, I want to be a wife someday, like definitely tune in, listen, because you can learn a lot. But like the Bible does have some specifics about men and about women and how we can love our families well and live out his design for us well. I mean, obviously something that we know in culture is we are trying to blur these lines and become like as neutral, like there are no roles, there are no differences. Everyone just be whatever you want to be, feel whatever you want to feel. It's all about just kind of like doing what you want to do. But as Christian women, we have a different standard, a different source, a different foundation that we live by, and that's the word of God.
You should do what you want. You should do what makes you happy. And I'm sure there's a Bible verse somewhere that talks about God wanting his children to be happy, right? So why do we forget about all of that stuff? Why is it like we have to suffer in order to prove our worthiness to God? It's such a skewed perspective. And at the end of the day, if you live your whole life to try to please someone else too, to try to please the leadership, blah, blah, blah. I went through this when I was leaving the cult. I tried really, really hard to be the person that was going to please the leadership. And I still failed at pleasing them. And I failed at pleasing myself. So then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go please myself. I'm going to go find myself and I'm going to go live the life that makes me happy, because they're not even happy with me regardless anyways. I'm never going to live up to their expectations because they don't know what's best for me. And it's always going to be a struggle and a never-ending battle trying to fit the mold that they want me to fit, because I was not meant for this life. Because this is their life. And so I'm going to go over here and they're going to judge me just like they were judging me before. And I'm going to be happy over here because I get to finally fulfill what my life's purpose is. Anyway, this is why like sometimes watching these YouTube videos can be harmful for people, like how to be a good godly Christian woman. Write down this, write down that. Well, but I don't like cooking, but I guess I'm going to have to learn. You know what's best for you. You don't need these two white girls to tell you what's best for you, okay? You're smart. You don't need a godly impression too to tell you, like, you're smart. Trust yourself. Find that trust in yourself. Learn how to trust yourself and to stop putting other people's opinions on what's right in your life. Don't put that above what you believe to be right. Find this first. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. This was a little bit triggering for me, but it was also very good to watch. No hate to any of these people in the videos. Except for you, I hate you. Just kidding. No hate to any of the people in the videos. Sometimes ignorance can hurt other people, and that was the only parts that made me feel a little bit upset, because sometimes spreading the ignorant information to make people shame themselves into being a good wife it can be upsetting, because it's something that we're battling. We've been battling for a very long time as women. But at the end of the day, these are women just trying to figure out how to make their marriage work and their Christian relationship work, and they're trying to share it with other people because they struggled as well. So at the end of the day, they're trying to do good deeds. But in reality, everybody's life choices are different, and everything that makes them happy is not going to be everything that makes you happy. So meat and potatoes. That's the meat and potatoes of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on Sunday for Cult a Cup of Coffee. Bye. Don't wear trousers. Don't wear trousers. Satan will get you. Okay, bye.